This series of videos is in response to the very detailed questions we got from our van tour video, which are really great questions, but we couldn't go into every aspect in that video in detail, otherwise the video would have been an hour long, or probably even more. But we know that it's really important because to understand these details, because that's how you're gonna learn about what you do or don't do in your van, because that's how we learned, is by watching hours and hours of YouTube videos. We want to definitely contribute back to the learning and the education about how to build a van. So today's video is going to be about solar.
Insert legal disclaimer here.
And what's the disclaimer?
If you blow yourself up, it's your own fault.
Right.
You're smart enough to understand what that might be. You claim no responsibility for yada yada yada.
We are not experts in any way. We are expert YouTube watchers. I'm gonna get behind the camera and we'll get James mic'd up and ready to do his thing. Cool.
All right, let's go up. There we are. So we mounted the Vantech roof racks here. We installed two 160 watt monocrystalline solar panels with pretty decently high efficiency. Standard thing off of Amazon. You can go with whatever one you want. We just went with these ones because they were relatively inexpensive and available. The extra things that we purchased were these Z brackets. They didn't come with the panels, I don't believe. Correct me if I'm wrong if they did, but I don't believe they did. This is Renogy Z brackets. These are Grape Solar 160 watt panels. And then when we move up to the front, which we'll have to do, I'll show you how it's all connected. Little monkey play. Alrighty. We drilled a hole in the top of the van here, and we installed this plate. I think it's a Blue Systems like marine wiring plate. This was just the same way you would install the fan, the Fantastic fan, or any kind of vent on top. I cut the hole, sand around it, use the alcohol or the mineral spirits to clean it, and then put your super duper glue on and then push it down and hold it. So this isn't going anywhere, completely watertight. The positive and negative leads go in through here. So I installed the corrugated tube and I glued it in so the wires can freely move back and forth depending on the shaking of the van and stuff like that. So when you move over to here, you connect up your panels with MC4 connectors because they're going to make your life a bazillion times easier. So they just click in place based off your wiring configuration, and then and then you just wire. Everything else goes to your panels after that. So depending on how you want to wire up your panels, whether you're going to be series, parallel, that's going to be something you have to figure out based off of the size of battery bank and a whole bunch of stuff that you have to figure out before you do any of this stuff. From the access box at the top, the wiring comes down right around through here, and then it goes down right into this area here, which is where our charge controller and all the other bits are. The charge controller feeds into here, and this feeds into our fuse panel, and it feeds into our inverter. We'll do the fuse panel and inverter next. Okay, so as mentioned before, all the wiring comes in through here. So you can see the bundle black red. So what you want to do is you want to make sure your negative wires are one color and your positive wires are a different color. There's a bunch of stuff out there that says whichever wires you can use whatever color for whatever. I just use black for negative and red for positive. The wiring comes in through here. Behind the boards are all in the corrugated stuff, the corrugated piping for cabling, and they go into here. So this is our MPPT 40 amp charge controller. Leaves us enough space with the battery, with the solar panels we have, and it feeds the batteries very quickly. So yeah, there's that. This feeds into the batteries, and then it goes from the solar panels to here, from here to the batteries. In here, what we've done is, here's our fuse box, or our fuse panel. You know, everything's labeled. Again, another Blue Systems piece of material, because we found that going with a lot of marine based stuff makes a lot of sense for RV stuff. It's a bit cheaper than some of the RV labeled stuff. What you want to do is you want to make sure you understand the power requirements, the fusing, the gauge wiring, and all that stuff for your application. At every opportunity, what I've done was put a kill switch and a breaker fuse into anywhere I think I might need to do some work. So this is a kill switch, and this is a breaker fuse.
And that's a breaker fuse.
Yeah. The way I've done it, it might be a bit excessive. So I'd rather have like err on the side of safety than have one of these things spark and, you know. So from the MPPT charge controller, that goes down to the batteries. And the panel is coming right off of the batteries. And that's why they're separately fused kind of thing. And this goes to our separate bits all around the place. So pro tip, what I would suggest you do is when you're pulling your wires, figure out what is going to be going to where, okay? And then label them. So if you don't label them, you're going to have a very difficult time figuring out what's going to where later on. The next thing we'll talk about is the inverter. It's this one here, this big black box here. So for this one, they also come directly off the batteries. And again, they're separate breaker switches here. And there's one big fuse for the power coming in. And then they'll split off to the power here. The reason why I think this is a Renogy one. Yeah. If I read the manual correctly and watched the videos correctly, they split the power, like the cables, to accommodate for higher voltages and amperages and stuff like that. So yeah, you just make your connections here and you're good to go. So what this does is this converts all the DC power, which is all the battery power, into AC power, which is the stuff you use in your house to plug in all your bits and bobs. So if you know, TVs, blender, rice cooker, juicer, laptops, phones, all that other stuff, that's all AC. Your light switches and all the stuff that are in here is all DC. Your car battery is a DC battery, so it's all DC based. So this is a pure sine wave inverter. You can get non-pure ones, I forget what they're called, but we specifically wanted pure sine wave because we knew we were going to put our laptops in here and work in here today, or sensitive electronics, laptops, cameras, and all that stuff. So that gives nice clean energy signal going into your bits so you don't fry them or damage them in any way, shape, or form kind of thing. So this is a 2000 watt inverter. The reason we went with 2000 watts is the peak draw off of the blender and mostly the blender is about, it's a 1500 watt blender. So I think the peak, like the surge on this is like 3000 watts, and the surge on the right out of the gates when that thing turns on, it's about 2200 watts. So you just kind of have to think about the surge stuff. Okay. So that's why we went a little bit bigger than we needed to for everything else except for the blender. So look at your biggest thing that is going to be your biggest draw. That's probably what you should be basing. From what I understand, that's what you should be basing your inverter off of. So this is supposed to be a Renogy meter. I don't know if it is. It's not branded, but it's a MT5 remote monitor. You don't need this. This is absolutely like a luxury item, I would say. But essentially what it is so you don't have to open this up and close it all the time to see what's what. It gives you a quick indication of where you're at on charge. You know, what's coming in off the panels, your draws on the battery. That's your load from your thing, which we don't use. We don't need to. It's been recommended. Some people might ask, well, why am I not hooking all the stuff up, like the lights and all that stuff, through the charge controller load side? From what I read, it's only for very basic things. If you're going to hook up like a couple of lights or whatever, you can use that. If you're putting your whole system on here, that can actually damage your charge controller. That's the way I understood it, and that's the way the Renogy actually explained it. So a couple of little things you can put on the load. Other than that, you probably want to have a separate fused box for all your bits and bobs. So I'll go into this. This is actually a remote control for this inverter. So we can leave it on, but not have it on. So if I want to turn it on, that's on. If I want to turn it off, that's off. It's going to have a trickle draw on your batteries and stuff like that, but the convenience outweighs the practicality thing. And this is our ghetto fuse panel. Waiting to get a nicer steel or whatever panel. These are all switches for all the lights, fridge, pump, and stuff like that. And fan. Cool. So what we'll do now is we'll look at the battery banks. So based off the calculations that we did for all of our bits and bobs, the appliances we're taking in, lights, toys, audio, camera, all that stuff, we decided we wanted to go with a bank of 4 Trojan T105s, 6-volt deep cycle golf cart batteries. Reviews are fairly solid on them. That's why we went with them. What we did was in here, we've left we have them wired up in series parallel configuration. So you may be looking at these two things here. These are bus bars. So we went with this because essentially I ran out of space on the posts. So these posts here to connect up the extra stuff. So what I did was I wired in these bus bars here, and now they provide like the power and stuff to the rest of the complicated system part here. So essentially we have 12 volts, 450 amp hours, because there's 6-volt batteries wired up in series parallel configuration. So with these batteries, they are flooded, non-sealed batteries. So every time they start charging, they're going to off gas a bit. So what we've done is we specifically placed this battery box by the door, and there's a hole in the bottom for it to just kind of get sucked out of the side door here. So we strategically placed it by the door, so any off gas or any kind of gas that happens goes out through the door here. So it can come out through the top and get sucked out through here when we're driving, or out through the bottom kind of thing, same deal. So we don't have to worry about the off gas issue. Yeah, so if you want more details on the other things, I'm actually in the process of diagramming my layouts. We'll have links in the description for some of the sites that I found to be almost like pretty much invaluable when it came to how to hook up solar and how to calculate solar draws and stuff like that. And then we'll also create a video playlist on the videos that I've watched to help me do the battery stuff and all the solar connection stuff like that.
Thank you so much for watching. Of course, if you like this video, like it. If you think somebody will benefit from knowing a little bit more about solar, please share it with them. And of course, if you have additional questions that we didn't cover, ask them, and we'll make sure James answers all of the comments below.
As best I can.
Disclaimer, disclaimer.
Yeah, big legal.
And be sure to visit us on Facebook and Instagram, CanVan Living. All right, ciao.
Thank you.